So good day to you. I'm going to tell you a story that has great meaning to me. It's about a time that happened about 14 years ago when I was invited to attend an Inipi ceremony, which is a Lakota sweat lodge. And this particular ceremony was presided over by a chief of a Lakota reservation, which I cannot name because I don't have his permission, don't have the permission to use his name. But I just hope that he understands how grateful I am, because that particular day has tremendous meaning to me, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. So inside the sweat lodge, I was sitting next to the door, which is typically where he would sit, and he asked, "Who is this sitting behind me?" And they told him that I had claustrophobia. And so he didn't make me move or anything. He just then understood why I was there. And he proceeded to go through the entire ceremony, which would be, there's a certain way that you do what you do inside a Lakota sweat lodge, and it's truly tremendously beautiful and very sacred. But he also healed me from claustrophobia. And he had me stand up. He said in Lakota, told me what to do, and then other people said, this is what you need to do. And I was at choice. I didn't have to. But he said, if you do this, so I stood up and I held the framework inside this sweat lodge, which is bent poles, and it's very hot in there, and it was completely dark. So I stood over the fire where these really hot rocks are brought in, and I held the framework. I'm just leaning over like this, holding onto the framework of the sweat lodge. And then he poured water onto the rocks, and all this hot steam came up and washed over me. And he had me do a number of different things and kept telling me what I needed to do, and it was translated in English for me to understand. And I continued to follow through what he told me to do. And I was healed. I don't have claustrophobia anymore. And I think he knew as well, because he said to me at one point, he said, if you come to Sundance, we will give you an eagle feather, which is a very great honor. It's a sign of courage, I believe. And he also gave me a Lakota name. And later he was asked by who we call Uncle. He's one of the people that this sweat lodge is presided over most of the time. And he asked him, why did you name her that? And he says, I don't know. And he told them why it was this. He told them why it was named that. He said, I didn't do it. I was told to do this. So that name that I have is a sacred name, and I live by it every day. And I sometimes do a good job of it, or at least try to. And then there are times when I don't, and it's a reminder to, I have to live up to this name, and I want to live up to this name. It has deep meaning, and it is sacred responsibility, and it's a humble calling as well. And I'm honored to have this name. And so after the sweat lodge was over, most everyone went back to the house to have the feast, because everyone brings food, and the food is so amazing. We've been inside the lodge for 3 or 4 hours sometimes, and you're really hungry by the time you're done. And we all sit around and have a wonderful feast. But before I went down and before the chief went down, he was standing outside the lodge, and I went up to him and I said, thank you. And he said, are you the woman that was sitting behind me? And I said, yes. And he said, your demons are your problem. You must look at them, move through them, and let them go. And I'm not one that remembers quotes because I usually have to look them up and I can paraphrase, but I've never forgotten that, because it was a life-changing experience for me, because he helped me heal this deeper, darker thing within me that caused my claustrophobia. And so whenever we have a challenge, whenever we have an issue or a concern, it might be a problem with a friend or a relationship issue, or it might be maybe you're thinking about changing your job or moving into a new career, or maybe you're retiring, wanting to retire. Could be that you could be experiencing something that's related to something like an addiction, or maybe your children are leaving home and you might be facing the empty nest syndrome. There's so many things, and we all have all these different things that happen all the time that are concerns that they kind of twirl around in our minds all the time and can't seem to let them go. But there are ways to go about that. So you look at what that is, recognize, oh, that's what's going on with me, and you move through it. And moving through it would be asking it questions. It might be like, what is that thing here to teach me? What's going on here? What do I need to know here? You might want to get some support from someone else and talk to friends or talk to your partner, your husband, your spouse, like for me, I talk to my husband sometimes. But what I do more often than not is I will journal about it. I will research about that particular thing if I need to. I will follow my intuition, which tells me most of the time, meditate on this, pray on this, do some journaling on it. And it's interesting that oftentimes within 24 hours, I will have an answer or something that will help me move through it to understand that concern just a little bit better. And sometimes it heals it completely. And by the time you look at it and you move through it and you come through and you look at it from a different perspective and what is this thing here to teach me? What do I need to know about this? Why is this bothering me? And I kind of look at it like looking at a diamond or some type of gemstone that's cut in facets. What are the different facets of that? What's the different perspective of that? And it's really allowing yourself to feel the love for yourself, the compassion for yourself, and understanding this deeper sense of who you are. To know that that thing that's bothering you is there for a reason, and it's there to teach you something, perhaps. How do I change that? How do I look at that situation? How can we alter this? How can we take it deeper? And then by the time it's time to let it go, oftentimes if you've done the work, then that thing, you can just easily let it go because it's not the same concern that it started out to be. And just let it go. Just let it go. Let it float on down the river. Let it go. So it's another thing that's important is the courage that it takes to really look at what that might be. And the word courage comes from the French word cœur, C-O-U-E-U-R, cœur. And that means heart. So you go deep into your heart. Go deep into the depth of who you are and give that concern, that challenge, that issue, open it up from your heart. Take it out of your head and blend that logical mind of yours down to your heart and bring it home here in your heart. Because the answers you need to know are within you. And you can get help from other people. Perhaps counseling would help, or look at something online that might be an answer through a class that you can take, or read a book, but start looking at whatever that concern is and what does it need? What's it telling you? What do you need to know that will alter it, change it, develop into something new that maybe makes it an entirely new, life-giving adventure for you? How's that for an idea? So you're probably wondering why I have a painting of a pear here. This is a study of, I did 2 pear paintings for a woman that I did some work for she was about 20 years ago, I believe. And she had a picture of an upright pear and one going sideways. And she wanted 2 great big paintings for her dining room. So I did different work for her, and I enjoyed, we kind of collaborated on a lot of different things we were going to do. And I love doing these different works with her and for her. But this pear, the cool thing about it is when you have like a light source coming from this side, it naturally creates a shadow. Okay? And then that light that comes through here, right here in the table, the light shines on the table and it reflects back up onto the pear, giving it texture, giving it color, giving it more depth, makes it look more three-dimensional. And so the shadow is very much a part of what the image itself is, as is the light source. And so when we shine a light on a concern, we give it more texture, we give it more color, we give it a depth, a greater depth. And the shadow isn't anything to be afraid of. The shadow would be the concern or the issue or the thing that we're needing to understand more deeply, something that we can change, something that we can go deeper into, because that's within us right here and now. So I know for you how amazing you are, because there isn't anyone on this planet that is not. There isn't any being on this planet that isn't amazing and incredible and beautiful and has great purpose. And as humans, we have choice all the time. We can choose what we want to do. And we have these different ways of looking at things. We have the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, whatever those opposite things might be. And it's always a moving, shifting kind of energy that goes from one into the other. Looking at the facets, looking at what it is that we're gaining, what there is to grow into, to create something even greater still. So may you be so amazed with how great you are, with the love that is within you, which is always the source that takes you into something even greater still. The compassion that you have for yourself and for other people around you in all that you are doing. And may you know how we're all in this together, because whatever you do, especially for the greater good of what you're doing, has such a tremendous effect on you and in everyone around you. And you may never know exactly what that might be, but you might find out someday that someone is affected by some good that you've done, or that an old friend has returned back into your life, and you get to re-establish something magnificent that was once there, but because you've grown and you've changed, you get to imagine it into something even greater still. There's so much beauty in life, so much elegance, and it's the grace of life, the beauty, the magnificence, which is you. And so again, as Grandma always said, love you bunches. Bye for now.